Rain lashed against the window of the decrepit building as Rick huddled in the corner, his small frame barely visible in the dim light. At just 10 years old, he was already familiar with fear. The thunder rumbling outside mirrored the chaos inside his heart. He had been orphaned after a violent confrontation in his neighborhood, and now he found himself in the hands of a clandestine organization known only as the Collective. The Collective had a reputation, whispered about in the dark alleys of the city. They were known for abducting orphan children, promising them a life of purpose, power, and loyalty. But Rick had seen the truth. Their promises were veils for manipulation and control. As the door creaked open, Rick's breath hitched. A tall figure, draped in shadows, stepped inside. The man's face was obscured by the brim of a hat, but Rick sensed the danger radiating from him. "Welcome, Rick," the man said, his voice smooth yet chilling. "You're one of the lucky ones. The Collective has chosen you." Rick was thrust into a world that blurred the lines between reality and nightmare. The Collective's compound was a fortress, hidden from the prying eyes of society. Inside, the walls echoed with the sounds of combat training and the cries of boys and girls stripped of their childhood. Weeks turned into months. Rick learned to fight, to endure pain, and to obey without question. The instructors were merciless, pushing the children to their limits. "Weakness is not an option," a burly man barked during a grueling training session. "You are here to become weapons." Rick's body ached, but he embraced the pain. He was determined to survive. Each bruise was a badge of honor, each scar a reminder of his progress. Yet, there was a flicker of rebellion within him, a whisper that questioned the morality of what they were becoming. Amidst the brutality, Rick formed bonds with other recruits. Max, a wiry boy with sharp wit, provided moments of levity amidst the darkness. Sophie, a fierce girl with a fiery spirit, became his confidant. Together, they navigated the complexities of their new reality. "We have to escape," Max whispered one night when the guards were distracted. "There has to be a life beyond this hell." Rick hesitated, torn between the growing loyalty to his newfound family and the haunting memories of his past. "And if we fail, we'll just become targets." Sophie chimed in, her voice fierce. "We can't let them control us forever. We have to fight back." As Rick and his friends advanced through their training, they were initiated into darker realms of the Collective. Their assignments became more sinister, requiring them to execute missions that tested their loyalty to the organization. On one such mission, Rick was tasked with surveilling a politician suspected of corruption. "Eliminate him if necessary," his instructor had coldly stated, devoid of any moral consideration. Rick's heart pounded as he watched the man from a distance, grappling with the weight of what was being demanded of him. He had been stripped of his childhood, but he still clung to the remnants of his humanity. When the mission ended, Rick returned to the compound with blood on his hands, both metaphorically and literally. He had completed the task, but the price was steep. The faces of those he had harmed haunted him, and he began to question the ideology that had been instilled in him. The turning point came during an assignment meant to test their loyalty. Rick, Max, and Sophie were tasked with infiltrating a rival organization. The plan was simple: gather intelligence and eliminate any threats. As they executed the mission, Rick stumbled upon a room filled with children like them, imprisoned and waiting for a fate he had come to loathe. Rage surged through him, igniting a resolve he had never known. "We can't leave them here," Rick shouted, his heart racing. "We have to save them." Max and Sophie exchanged glances, torn between loyalty to the Collective and a shared understanding of their humanity. "You're right," Sophie finally said. "We have to do something." Rick's decision to save the children marked the beginning of a rebellion within the Collective. Together, they devised a plan, a daring escape that would require not only skill, but also unwavering courage. The night was shrouded in darkness as they executed their plan. They fought against the guards, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Each punch thrown, each shot fired, echoed the struggle for freedom. As they reached the room, the children's eyes widened in disbelief. "You came for us?" a small girl asked, hope flickering in her gaze. "We're getting out of here," Rick replied, determination etched on his face. The escape was fraught with peril. Alarms blared as they made their way through the compound, and chaos erupted around them. Guards rushed in, weapons drawn, and Rick felt the weight of their mission pressing down on him. "Keep moving," Max shouted, pushing the younger children ahead. Each step brought them closer to freedom, but the shadows of the collective loomed large. Rick could feel the eyes of the organization watching, waiting for their retribution. When they finally burst through the gates, a sense of exhilaration washed over him. They had escaped, but Rick knew the battle was far from over. In the days that followed, Rick and his friends found refuge in a safe house, hidden from the prying eyes of the collective. They had saved the children, but the scars of their experiences ran deep. Rick grappled with his past, haunted by the choices he had made. He had been trained to be an assassin, but he longed for redemption. "We can't let them find us," he said, his voice heavy with fear. "They'll come for us." Sophie's eyes sparked with determination. "Then we fight back. We expose them for what they are." United by a common goal, Rick and his friends began to expose the collective's atrocities. They gathered evidence, reaching out to journalists and activists willing to stand against the organization's reign of terror. Days turned into weeks as they worked tirelessly, fueled by a fire that had been ignited within them. They were no longer mere pawns but warriors fighting for justice. As they prepared to release their findings, Rick felt a sense of purpose wash over him. Finally, they were taking control of their narrative, reclaiming their lives from the shadows. In a climactic showdown, Rick and his allies confronted the leaders of the collective. Tension hung in the air as they faced the very people who had orchestrated their suffering. "You think you can escape us?" the leader sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "You are nothing but tools." Rick stepped forward, his voice steady. "We are no longer your tools. We've become something greater." The confrontation erupted into chaos, a battle of wills and strength. Rick fought fiercely, fueled by the pain of his past and the hope for a brighter future. In the aftermath of their rebellion, the world began to take notice. The collective was exposed, their dark practices laid bare for all to see. Rick and his friends became symbols of resilience, proving that even in the darkest of circumstances, the human spirit could rise. As he stood on a rooftop overlooking the city, Rick felt a sense of peace wash over him. He was no longer the boy who had been taken. He was a survivor, a warrior, and a beacon of hope for others who had suffered. The shadows of the past would always linger, but now he had the strength to face them. Together with his friends, Rick would forge a new path, one that stood against the darkness and fought for a future filled with light.